You are Locked On Tigers Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, oh my goodness, we've got a fun baseball team to watch. What a win for the Tigers, and Tarik Skubal does it again. He is back, folks. 7 innings of shutout baseball as the Tigers even the series against the Phillies. 4-1 the final in this one. We're going to break it all down. The offense showed up for 1 inning, and we've been doing the fun, last number of games with this Tigers offense, 0 runs, 1 run, and then double digits. They scored 4 runs tonight. They're back to being a normal baseball team. No, I won't go that far. This team nobody's going to figure out this team. I think that's going to be the takeaway for everything. But welcome into a Locked On Tigers live postcast. I am your host, Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. Formerly with 97.1 The Ticket, now with Locked On Tigers Postcast, and fired up to be with you. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit, and then tell a friend about it as well. Doesn't cost you anything. We are your post-game destination, and as always, we thank you for making the Locked On Tigers Postcast your first listen following the final out. Every single game, we're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And as we welcome in all of our viewers on the Locked On Sports Detroit YouTube page, you're probably as stunned and shocked as I am. I know watching that 5th inning, I thought, Scoob's got that look in his eyes. Maybe he needs 1 run, and you get the RBI ground out from Vierling, and you think, all right. And then a 2-run single from Andy Ibanez. You love to see it. And Riley Green with the RBI triple just for good measure. So that being said, we have said a lot of things about this offense, and rightfully so, because it's been an offense that has been so frustrating and so unpredictable and hard to figure out. And I will say a pretty horrific offense. And every now and then they would show up with 11 runs, 10 runs, whatever it may be. And tonight it was in a weird way just refreshing to see, okay, 4 runs on the board, and then turn everything else over to Tarik Skubal, because he was dazzling. He was incredible. He had hitters off balance. 7 innings of scoreless baseball. I know Bryce Harper gets the home run there in the 9th to make it 4-1. But you look at the final line, Skubal gets his 9th win of the season, just 3 hits, 7 strikeouts. The Cy Young is so back. Not that it was ever not back or not on, but a couple of, not for Skubal's sake or for his standard, some rough outings there, especially in Atlanta, where he gave up the 4 earned runs and 5 total runs in just 4 innings. And before that, he was roughed up for 4 earned runs against the Astros. So the last 2 starts, certainly not of Tarik Skubal standard, especially for 2024, what we've come to get used to. But oh my goodness, tonight he was impressive. The changeup was filthy. Everything he was throwing was filthy. He was just having his way. And if this type of game could just be bottled up and replicated from this entire team, other than when Tarik Skubal's on the hill, the next time Jack Flaherty pitches, the next time Reese Olson pitches, and heck, maybe even Casey Mize and anyone besides Kenta Maeda, then maybe this team could start to string together some wins and some series wins. But against one of baseball's best teams, probably the best team in the National League, and a ferocious lineup, a deep lineup up and down, Tarik Skubal said, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get mine. And he put the team on his back and just goes out there and dominates for 7 innings, to where once the Tigers got those 4 runs in the 5th, you felt pretty comfortable about the way this one would go. And now you got a chance for a series win against baseball's best team in the National League. And like I said, it's so much 24 hours, such a difference 24 hours can make, because this is where the dysfunctional relationship with the Detroit Tigers comes into play, because they reel you back in. And oh my goodness, I feel reeled back in after watching this game tonight. And you even had little things like in the 4-run inning, you had the bottom of the order setting the table for the heart of the lineup. You had the 3 consecutive singles from the bottom of the order when it was Malloy, Jake Rogers, Kreidler, even with that infield single to load the bases for Vierling. He gets the RBI ground out, and then Ibanez does what he does against lefties, takes it right back up the middle, 2-run single, takes the extra base. Wouldn't have mattered because Riley Green scores anyways, or he scores on the Riley Green triple. But the point being, this team was connecting and playing complementary baseball, which is not something we've seen, especially in the month of June. But appreciate everybody tuning in to Locked On Sports Detroit. We got a great show tuned in or ready to go for you on Locked On Tigers Postcast. Of course, discussing Tarik Skubal and his dominant performance in that 4-run 5th inning for the offense. And then this was in the hopper if there's time to get to it. But Scott Harris went on the Have a Seat podcast with Jason Benetti and Dan Dickerson, and it was an interesting interview. I certainly learned some things, and I think it offered a glimpse into the mindset of the brains leading this organization. So certainly worth a listen if you haven't checked it out yet. But if there's time, we will certainly discuss that. But when I watched that today during the day, I certainly was not planning on the Tigers going out and winning this game. And it was such a great pitching matchup with Ranger Suarez on the other end, another Cy Young candidate in the National League. And I fully expected the Tigers offense to be blanked or score 1 run. And that's just the cold, hard truth. And I always insist on transparency and honesty. And that's exactly how I entered this game. But my goodness, I was wrong. And again, it was 1 inning, but hey, 4 runs was enough. Was plenty for Tarik Skubal, and 7 innings of shutout baseball. He's once again your favorite to win the American League Cy Young, but I'll pump the brakes a little bit on that as it's only June 25th. But let's get to the comments. Adam Cullum leaves us off. Nice win today for the boys. Love listening to Dan Dickerson on the Tigers Radio Network say that Andy Ibanez always hits lefties well, and it worked. Good day for him. He needed it. Yeah, no doubt about that. Andy Ibanez against lefties, he's feasted off left-handed pitching. He has a multi-hit game today, and of course the big one, the 2 RBI single. Other comments, let's go ahead and get to Demetrius McNeil. Skubal performance setting the stage for a series win tomorrow before I head to Hellerman Recreation Center on Thursday morning. Oh, nice. You're going to the game tomorrow afternoon. Good stuff there. Yeah, it is a day game, so we'll be on the air in the afternoon following the conclusion of that one. Born Cool, hell of a win tonight. I swear we trade Skubal come deadline, I'm going to jump in front of a bus. Yeah, we've talked about that at length on Locked On Tigers Postcast, that you might just now maybe things change a little bit, because it's a funny game. It's a funny dynamic to the season where this Tigers team is right now, because you can't come out and totally say they're out of it. But at the same time, it's like, who is this team really? And was tonight fun? Absolutely. Was Tarik Skubal a rock star on the mound? 100%. But is he untradeable? I guess time will tell. Mark Pajot on the comments as well. Has anyone watched the Scott Harris interview with Dickerson and Benetti? Yes, we were discussing that. I went ahead and watched it all day today, or not all day, but I watched it this afternoon. Interesting stuff that we will talk about at the end of the program. Jason Walter says, give me the Cy Young or give me death. Baseball is weird. Yeah, how many times do you walk away, especially with this Tigers team, just saying baseball is weird? Because there's so many parts of this game, especially when you play every day, 162 games in the season, that are just so unpredictable. And it felt like this team was down and out. And you've got Ranger Suarez, who's the favorite for the National League Cy Young, taking the mound. You've got a daunted lineup 1 through 9 with guys that can beat you. Skubal has struggled his last 2 starts. And what happens? The script completely flips. And that's what makes the tune-in factor still there. So maybe I walk back a couple of my comments from last night. I was saying I can't watch this baseball team anymore. And tonight reeled me back in. Just what a good, crazy ex-girlfriend does. They get you back in. But I'm looking at Skubal's numbers on the post game right now. AJ Hinch is addressing the media. 7 innings, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, and just 1 walk. Amazing stuff. So great stuff all the way there. All right, let's go ahead and take one quick break. And when we come back, we will talk about the offense, some things that we liked, as well as get into the Scott Harris comments from Have a Seat. But it's a Tigers victory over the Phillies, and they've got a chance to go for a series win tomorrow afternoon. And that sounds pretty good. Back in just a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at the Tax Network of the US of A. That's right. Look, we pride ourselves here on Locked On Sports Detroit and Locked On Tigers Postcast for bringing you all the comprehensive action following the last out, post-game coverage, you name it, year-round too, not just for the Tigers, but Locked On Lions Postcast, Locked On Pistons Postcast, and it's all about bringing you the latest year round. You know what else is year round? Well, let me just tell you, collection season. That's right. They don't take any time off over there with the IRS. Yeah, I know it's a three letters, but that can mean a whole heck of a lot, because at the IRS, they don't take any time off. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, you can call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. That's 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockdown. We'll put that link in the description to make it easy on you. But trust the pros at taxnetworkusa.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Supply House and supplyhouse.com. Listen up and listen good. You want to get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trades. Supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products all online. And their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product information to help you get the job done right. You can shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. I love that part about it. Fast shipping, coast to coast. In the US of A, they've got you covered. Need help with an order? You can get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person. It's not like talking to a robot like Scott Harris. No, it's a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free trade master program. Every trade master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free memberships at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. All right, continuing on with this live edition of Locked On Tigers postcast after a Tigers victory 4-1. If you're joining us on the YouTube stream, we appreciate it. Always good to see everybody tapping into the comments and letting their voice be heard, because that's what it's all about here on Locked On Tigers postcast. Born Cool says Torque hit 2 tonight. Yeah, Torque's coming back. Believe he had 2. I know I saw the 1 in, of course, for AAA there. Saw him leave the yard the one time, but I'll have to double check on that. Mary Jo Isaacson is in the comments. Yeah, for the win. Skubal is the best. That's right. Anytime Skubal's on the mound, make your way to the ballpark. It's appointment viewing. And yes, Jason Walter here confirming it, that Torque just hit a grand slam for our friends, the Toledo Mud Hens. So there you go. Maybe it's just a good night all the way around. How about that? Let's just give it up for a Tuesday night in June where we're feeling good, because it feels like it's been a little while since we've had that top to bottom good feeling about this Tigers team. And we saw it tonight with a huge win over the Philadelphia Phillies against a really, really good team after a month that has not been the best for the Tigers. That's probably the best way to put it. Adam Colum here in the comments saying, nice to see Ryan Kreidler do something. He loaded the bases in the 5th inning. Sometimes it's not how hard you hit him, it's where you hit him. Loved his aggressiveness on the base pass. Yeah, he did steal a couple of bases and then didn't, in fact, get thrown out at home on the ground out. So there you have it. One more question here from Adam. What do you think of Torque? Do you think he will get DFA'd because of his consistency? My only worry is that some other team would pick him up and he turns into Aaron Judge. Yeah, I don't think they're, based on what I heard from Scott Harris today, I don't think they're giving up on anybody. Scott Harris preached patience, patience, patience. And again, we will dive into that because I had written some thoughts down after listening to that interview. But one more time, I want to talk about Tarik Skubal and the way he just went out and felt the magnitude of this game, pitching against someone like Ranger Suarez on the other side and against a lineup that is just loaded with hitters from Kyle Schwarber to Trey Turner. The list goes on. Obviously, Bryce Harper. I mean, that 1-2-3 right there is just it's pretty daunting. Nick Castellanos, our old friend. And speaking of old friends, Gregory Soto, who pitched the 9th inning, I saw Jason Beck put on Twitter that he did receive some boos, which that's our former All-Star Gregory Soto. Just kind of interesting there that he received some boos. But we'll have obviously Spencer Turnbull on the mound tomorrow for the Phillies, Matt Vierling, a former Philly playing for the Tigers, Nick Castellanos. The list goes on of just guys being reunited all together here at Comerica Park in a Tigers-Phillies series that the Tigers could have a chance to win, which when you say that out loud, boy, would that be nice to take 2 of 3 before beginning the road trip to Anaheim to take on the Angels, a 4-game series there. That would be some awesome momentum moving into the end of the month. But don't want to get ahead of myself too much there. We'll see what tomorrow brings. And I'm optimistic, again, with Spencer Turnbull on the mound for the Phillies, and for the Tigers after Skubal. You know, it's always a good idea to load it up when you've got Skubal that goes in game 2, and then tomorrow, still determining who it's going to be for the Tigers, if Flaherty's going to be back or who, in fact, maybe it'll be Matt Manning. We'll see. The Tigers have not announced yet who will be pitching tomorrow in the day game. But when we come back, we're going to get into Scott Harris's comments on the Have a Seat podcast with Jason Benetti and Dan Dickerson. But what a win tonight for the Tigers. After the win, the Tigers now moved to 37-42, 5 games below 500, 19-21 at home, but a chance to take a series from the Phillies tomorrow afternoon. We wrap it up with Scott Harris's comments on Have a Seat with Jason Benetti and Dan Dickerson. That's coming up next on Locked On Tigers postcast. Proud sponsor of today's episode is Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. You got to download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Maybe you're watching for the first time, you don't know what Prize Picks is. Maybe you're an expert and a seasoned pro, or maybe you're just somebody that loves to add a little more sizzle to the game like I do. But any way you slice it, Prize Picks is the app for you. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, and it's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action. It's just you against the numbers, my friends. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players, stat projections, and watch the winnings roll on in. You can get in on the daily action with your friends and become a part of the Prize Picks community. So download the app today, see for yourself. And if you're looking for an app that offers fun promotions, well, look no further than Prize Picks, because they've got you covered every week, from lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays to helping your lineup hit or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. They've got you covered. With the finals over, both the Stanley Cup finals and the NBA finals, the Celtics hoisted the Larry O'Brien trophy. And just last night, it was the Panthers hoisting Lord Stanley's Cup. But don't you worry. The hoops action doesn't have to stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is still heating up with stars like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and, of course, the names alongside some of the greats like Brianna Stewart, Asia Wilson. You could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. And so don't take my word for it. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. You pick more, you pick less. It's that easy. So Scott Harris spoke today spoke to Jason Benetti and Dan Dickerson on the Have a Seat podcast. I don't know when it was actually recorded. They might have even mentioned that, but it was released today, as they do with podcasts, and now you can listen to it on demand at any time. And his comments, like they always are, were thought-provoking, calculated, and offered a glimpse into the way he thinks about this team. And everybody can make their own conclusions and have their own opinion and stance on this. But I walked away after listening to Scott Harris talk about the construction of this team, the I guess strategy, the theory behind the construction of the team, the way it all makes sense in his head, essentially to him in a very roundabout way, in a very calculated way, almost buying time and asking for patience from the fans. And again, everybody can, and that's a very, very high level, blanket statement to try and encompass an interview that was about 45 minutes. So obviously there's bits and pieces and many different layers and a lot deeper than that. But the fact of the matter is, throughout his answers, I just felt like he's saying, all right, I need more time. I need more time. And maybe that is true because he's been there 20 months. Let's keep that in mind. But I found one of the quotes kind of interesting that I made sure I wrote down here when he was talking about the lack of moves made in the winter leading up to this season, because that's one thing that it still just gets me. And we've harped on it and we'll continue to harp on it. But that is where I still have a beef, I guess is a good way to put it. That's how some of the kids will put it. But the quote that stood out to me is they would, in regards to not doing anything in this past winter, he said they would have won a lot of headlines. The optics would have been great. People would have been really fired up. But in hindsight, when you look at what happened to some of those players, not all of them, they would have been mistakes. And so there's still this justification that the Tigers didn't need to do anything this past winter. And despite having the cap space to do it and go get somebody like JD Martinez, in his head, he still didn't think that was the right thing to do. And I found myself getting aggravated with that because it just seems like we're being fed this propaganda. And I see Mark in the comments there, complete propaganda. Yeah, you're being sold this idea that there's no accountability for, just just go ahead and say, yeah, maybe we could have used JD Martinez. And that type of transparency would go a really long ways, because JD Martinez would be the best hitter on this team behind Riley Green, and better than Riley Green in some categories. He'd have the best slugging percentage on this team, the second best OPS on the team behind Riley Green. 9 home runs. We're talking about things that this Tiger team could use. And I just don't understand that commitment to always having to be right when it just is clear that there were moves that could have been made that would have helped this team. And I know that's a very, very obtuse way to look at it. Oh, look at JD Martinez's stats now. He belongs on this team. But at the same time, there's merit to saying, hey, I think you could have done a little bit more to beef up this offense going into this season. So that's one thought I had. And again, you got to listen to it for yourself and see what you think of Scott Harris's comments. And I might even go back and re-listen to it, because I'm sure there were some things that I missed the first time around. But as far as the process, it's a very heavy analytical team. He learned from Theo Epstein. He certainly has confidence in his abilities, in himself. And so as a fan or somebody that covers the team, I guess it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what any other beat writers or fans think. They're going to beat to the sound of their own drum, and they're going to do what they feel is best. And I thought Benetti and Dickerson, to an extent, they ask the right questions, but they can't ask the follow-ups. Like when Harris is saying, oh, we didn't need to get anybody, they would have been mistakes. Like if he's on 97.1 The Ticket or on Locked On Tigers Postcast, I think you say, well, as a follow-up, JD Martinez would be one of the best hitters on this team. How can you call that a mistake? And then it would be interesting to see what he would say. But obviously, Dickerson and Benetti, nor should they, I guess, as employees of the team, they're not going to say that in that podcast relaxed setting and really have a true hard-hitting question. But the other part that was interesting, and just the patience with some of the young guys, there was a lot of, hey, Scott Harris said it time and time again, look at the trends around the league. Lots of young hitters are struggling, and it's not just our young hitters that are struggling. You got to give them time. And it was interesting when he discussed the difference between knowing when to send a guy down, like you have with Torque, with a very clear set of, this is what you need to work on. This is the point of going down, compared to somebody like Colt Keith that, hey, maybe you work through it at the big league level and continue to grind out at bats. And I did, again, get the kind of, just in summary, as I look at what the takeaway from this interview is, that we just more patience, more time. And that doesn't really sit great with me, but I do have to consider the fact that, hey, this is not going to happen overnight, and he's been there less than 2 years. So that's a lot of what I have to say on it. And at the end of the day, let's think about how good of a game this was for the Detroit Tigers, and not focus on Scott Harris's comments. But I do, if you're a fan of the club, go and listen to it. It's easy to find on YouTube. Honestly, I just typed in "have a seat" and see what you think of it for yourself with Scott Harris's comments. But what a win tonight. 4-1 victory over the Philadelphia Phillies. The 4-1 victory puts the Tigers at 37-42, 19-21 at home. Phillies now 52-27, 21-15 away from home. And we've got a little rubber match tomorrow afternoon. How about that? So make sure you join us after the final out tomorrow afternoon. We will be Locked On Tigers live postcast edition, breaking it all down. And hopefully we're talking about a series win. It'll be Spencer Turnbull for the Philadelphia Phillies. He's 3-0, 2.63 ERA, and a 1.05 whip, if you will. Tigers have not announced their starter yet. We will see. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to be on the air with you, talking Detroit sports. And tonight gives us a little resurgence, a little refreshed sense of belief. And again, 162 games, so please hear me. I'm not saying this is going to be the game we look back at and say this is where it all turned around. But tonight was nice. Tonight was a nice win. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. So thanks so much for tuning in. As always, it's a pleasure to be on the air with you. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Detroit. Check out Locked On's 24/7 stream on YouTube, as well as the free Amazon Fire TV app. And make sure you're checking out Locked On Tigers with Scott Bentley on the day today. That's going to do it for me. Appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll see you next time, tomorrow, actually, after the day game on Locked On Tigers Postcast.